2013 and one on the 8th of July 2016. In looking at the evidence concerning the coups, I was particularly directed to telephone intercept conversations that were made in South Sudan. The recordings were preserved in South Sudan, and I was given access to them. The report discloses the information within the telephone intercepts. It also looks at the international community's reaction at the time to the events involving the conflicts that broke out in December 2013 and July 2016. And it also looks at the progression of events between those two dates. So if I can introduce myself, as there's been a lot of speculation I have seen in the media surrounding South Sudan, a lot of it erroneous, a lot of it plain wrong, and I will introduce myself so that you know who I am. I'm a Queen's Counsel from the Bar of England and Wales. I'm a lawyer with over 40 years experience. I have spent 25 years working in international criminal law, and that came about from the first case at the Yugoslavia War Crimes Tribunal that set the modern international criminal law and war crimes laws. I was in that first case, and I remained practicing in this area, going to the Rwanda Tribunal, practicing at the International Criminal Court. And in that 25 years, I experienced the kinds of situations that the evidence in relation to the two attempted coups have been able to produce. I am very familiar with telephone intercept evidence. We had them in the Milosevic case. We had them in the Kenyatta case. I'm very familiar with why people try and keep their activities quiet and secret and discreet, and believe the telephone is a medium that can do that. Conspirators and those planning attacks don't broadcast their intentions. They speak on the telephone. At the Kenyatta case at the International Criminal Court, I produced telephone intercept evidence that was the first ever produced within an international court involving telecommunications. And that provided the stories of activities of those people involved in events in that country. So it was no surprise to me that, looking at my background, that the government of South Sudan wanted me to look at evidence that they had in their possession, that the president had spoken on several occasions about the fact that there had been two attempted coups. First of all, the 15th of December 2013, and then the 8th of July 2016, but had been ignored by the international community, and instead what we call a false narrative began to develop within the media and elsewhere that was taken up by international institutions and the truth concealed. So my experience has been that the analysis of such evidence is very important as it leads the way to the truth. And when you get international institutions disregarding the word of a president, it is something worthy of examination to see who is telling the truth. My analysis of the audio intercepts of key participants within the conflict of the 15th of December 2013 onwards is clearly set out in my report. You will see there words taken from the telephone tapes that were made at the time of the individuals who were conspiring to take power and do so with violence. And they planned an attack. And that attack is revealed in the extracts that I have put in the report. Of course, there are far many more intercepts that show even more plotting and events. But this is the essence of what took place. And it reveals that what the president said shortly afterwards on the 16th of December 2016 was in fact true. The context of the conflict within South Sudan, however, was quickly put into a narrative that it was a conflict between two sides. And the point I want to bring to your attention, and why it is important, and why I think the reset button needs to be pushed, is that the unlawful taking of power by violence by a group of individuals, politicians and military commanders, that involve the taking of life, the deliberate killing of people, killing of soldiers so that you can get access to the weaponry, killing of others such as soldiers, police, and even civilians so that you can get access to key bases and then control strategically the capital of the country, is a matter that happens that gives a state the right and indeed the duty to protect its people and to protect the government. What I looked at was far too easily brushed under the carpet. It was far too easily dismissed for what was being said by the government of South Sudan, that these events were an attempt to unlawfully seize control. My experience in the international criminal courts has given me the opportunity to analyze international narratives such as that surrounded South Sudan. I've seen it in relation to the assassination of Rafik Hariri in Lebanon, in relation to the Tamil Tigers War in Sri Lanka, in relation to conflict in the former Yugoslavia, in Bosnia, Serbia, and Croatia. And what I've observed is that a narrative gets a push behind it that then is regarded as being the truth, but the truth has never properly been examined. And I've been in court cases where I've examined those facts and I've been able to show where the truth lies and that the narrative that was being pushed was not a true narrative. And this has been a concern of mine for a number of years, because too easily the narrative that is taken up carries consequences for a state, for individuals within a state, for the development of that state, and indeed for justice in that state. Because if a state is being viewed through the wrong lens of truth, the state is not being appreciated and respected internationally and able to achieve its full potential. There's a famous saying, I think by Mark Twain, that in the time that it takes for a lie to get halfway round the world, the truth is still pulling its pants on. And that is so with false information and indeed with the manipulation of the narrative, with the manipulation of facts. So the report that I produced with my team analysed the intercept evidence and was able to establish a pattern of facts. However, we didn't leave the matter there. We were aware that there had been a South Sudan investigation commission that was organised under presidential decree in January 2014, and that investigation commission had held a series of examinations of key witnesses to events that had unfolded on the night of the 15th of December 2013 and in the days thereafter. And what was remarkable was this, that the witnesses speaking weren't aware of the intercepted communications and the stories that they told. The witnesses were not aware of the total picture that the intercepted communications revealed. However, both sets of evidence from the investigation commission and the telephone intercepts cross-corroborate each other. They are mutually corroborative, and both of them have come about from different sources. So that is important when people analyze the facts and truth about the events that took place, because you're not looking at just one source, you're looking at two sources. And so I've referred to why this is important for the government of South Sudan to have the truth revealed. I've referred to the respect that is due to the state about the truth being known. But I also would like to refer to the fact that false allegations undermine a society. They undermine the confidence of the people in a society. They spread fear. They spread information that is destructive. And it presents an image to the rest of the world that a society is at conflict with itself. And that is not a good thing. It was a great shame to me that, looking at the work of the African Union Commission of Inquiry into South Sudan, that they did not take the time to analyze the telephone intercepts that I did because they would have found their way to the truth, and events may have been very, very different in the subsequent years for the development and progress of this state. Because one of the problems about the incorrect stories, the wrong narratives, is that they're adopted by other people. People just look at what was said by the one before them, and then that becomes the so-called truth. I've seen it in the last few days in the reaction to my report. That's the same thing that is going on. But the facts and truth speak for themselves. That is what I have sought to lay out for you, for the government, for the people of South Sudan. And I hope that you will consider the content of that report and what it reveals, and that the recent tensions in the state can be calmed down, and people, on a basis of truthfulness, seek to reconcile and develop this society. So that is my summary of the report and a number of the issues that it has brought to my attention and that I wanted to bring to your attention. But I'd like, before I take questions from you, to think about the victims. And this is important. Spreading false news and not telling the truth disrespects those victims. And I would like, if I may, to just have 1 minute silence as we as a collective in this room pay our respects to the victims. Thank you.